Hey, says it's setting up the meeting for YouTube Live, but it says this meeting is being live streamed. Here we go. Hey, there it is. Me and all my glory and my other little spot here. That's okay. It is what it is. Happy Saturday, everybody. I'm still pushing buttons. It's very distracting seeing yourself on two sides of a screen. So I'm going to move myself over here. I'll move it so I can at least see the chat. Usually Arizona turns up, but it's early in the morning for her. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. All right, so yeah, happy Saturday. So I guess what I have today is a couple of notes. Briefly talked about a couple of minutes before I push the live button, and I'll put the full noise on Rumble and Odysee, probably Bitchute too, about how I dictate while I'm driving, because that's when ideas come, because you're kind of working on you're an automatic pilot. I'm just driving down the street, heading to my next appointment sort of a thing, and I can just push a dictation button, yammer away. So this kind of came up pretty much from when someone that might be a lecture that's playing that brings this, and I have to stop the lecture and push the dictation button. This, because a lot of people are looking for answers, and no exclusion here, we're all looking for answers about whatever it is that you're looking for. I'm not even going to list it of what you might be thinking about. So there's been a huge explosion of seers, psychics, what do you call it? Astrologers, tarot, oracles. Nothing wrong with any of it. Not saying that at all. It's pretty awesome, actually, that there are so many. It kind of shows that there's an opening up a little bit of people trying to dip into that quantum field. Just don't get overwhelmed by it. Don't take it don't hang on every word, because it's not always about knowing the future. Because knowing the future, and don't tell me what the future might bring. It might help you be prepared, and knowing the future might help you feel more comfortable. So here's the rub. Is it possible that the real skill comes from your ability to be unprepared and still be successful? So kind of get that? I'm not sure. Maybe not knowing the future or even knowing the details of possible outcomes can prove or improve your skill and agility as a human being. Dwell on that a little bit. And it all, not even really sure how to expound on something like that, but I think that kind of brings it up because we want to feel comfortable. And that's why I think a lot of this, knowing what's coming, great. What it's actually going to look like when it arrives is usually pretty different because of our preconceived notions, ideas. All right, it's just like, I don't know. Give me an example. Nothing really. I mean, because it's so varied. It's so varied. There's no real good overarching example. So that was that kind of idea, because there's so many different people trying to prepare for the future. And even if it's not, there are, on an esoteric perspective, there's also people that are out there making predictions on money. That's a big issue. Political outcomes. I think this is going to happen because yada, yada, yada. That can, so having a good grasp of what's going on around you can be helpful. But again, a lot of times it's going to look a little bit different than what we might expect. But again, it still comes up that you will build real skill and prove your ability to be unprepared and still succeed. Don't be overwhelmed if you don't know, because that's where they like it. So even putting things up like things that can be cause stress, or things that can cause uncertainty. Knowledge can cause uncertainty. Knowing about, even weather, or wouldn't you like a job like that? Be wrong every day and still get paid. Okay, so that kind of feels like the end of that. So one of the other things that came up is too, for not knowing what's going to happen, or thinking something's going to turn out one way and it turns out different, or it looks different, or comes out like unexpected, just the way that you didn't expect it. Sometimes you can overanalyze and you feel like it's maybe a mistake. And it's like, it's actually good, because that mistake is almost like a growth spurt. And I think it's harder to see, and it's uncomfortable, but it helps you learn how to grow, change, shift, and adapt. So be okay with it. So screw up and learn, I guess, so, because nothing is going to be contained in a bottle. You can't really contain stuff, it's just going to be fluid and all that. So this stuff is like really esoteric, but all right. So that was that. What happened last night? It was, yeah, that was last night. It was yeah. I was cleaning the grill, and it was about 10 to 9 in the evening, and it's pretty bright at that point. Sky was still very blue, and the half moon was out. So I'm kind of looking to the south. I saw some swallows, and I love watching the swallows. This morning, got up really early, and the sun was just starting to come up, and the bats were still out. Love that. Bats were just like everywhere. It's like, eat those mosquitoes. But the night before, these swallows, some of them, there was like a group of like 5 or 6 of them, and they seemed to kind of like come in and out, and I kind of would look up, and they're pretty high up. And yeah, there are probably bugs up there, but flying around that they were eating. And I saw 2 fly off to the west, and 3 other ones come in from the west, do a circle. They did like a really big circle. And then they headed back to an area kind of southeast of where I was standing. They were really high. No clouds, zero. And they disappeared. Poof, gone. Kind of weird. I mean, I have quite clear sky from east to west. And when I look to the west, I see the roof of my house. So I saw them come in from the west, 3 of them circle around super high and just disappeared. And the reason well, that in and of itself is kind of noteworthy, but it's about the same spot that I saw other objects like lights and other craft, like the one that I saw a couple of years ago. It looked like a really long cylindrical ship. Other people have talked about, the same sort of a thing. It's like a transport ship or craft. Had lights, and they were porthole lights. Then they were like that. They were like an ellipse. That, and it wasn't Starlink. I'm sorry. That was not Starlink, because it came over, and somebody had noted at that point, they live about 30 minutes north. Somebody put it up on their Facebook page. This was a couple of years ago, that they saw this really bizarre craft, and I think they posted something on it and people kind of blew them off. But this thing that I saw was that same ship, and that ship did the same thing because it was moving quite slow, moved slow enough that I was able to get in the house, grab my phone, and I took a short video of it. And it happened twice. That, I don't remember what time of year. I'd have to go back and look at the video. But it disappeared. Boop, 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 boop. You saw that disappear into that same area. Wasn't poof all at once. It was as if it was heading into something. So I'm being told to trust my intuition. So that's what I'm going to do. And really thought no one was going to believe me, and blow it off as something like Starlink, but I know it wasn't. I know that. So there's a whole lot more going on. I don't think spirit is what or who we think it is. There's a lot of talk about what's going on with the moon too. So just kind of chill into it. And I think that's pretty much all I have today, you guys. Really appreciate anybody who is able to leave me a comment, please and thank you. Something that's constructive. Sales dookie, boost my numbers. Nay, buying nothing. I'm not buying views. I'm not buying any of that rubbish. If you're able to leave me a legitimate comment or something that's going to be possibly a topic or whatever, the sooner the better, because that kind of gets assimilated and processed in my little bean anyway. I had something in here about, hey, Arizona, I'm at the beginning in fast mode. Was digging taters. Oh, yum. I know I can't eat like those starchy veg. I'll do sweet potatoes, and I have to avoid the other ones because it's like a Lay's. I can't eat just one. I oink out. But man, they are the best right out of the ground. I used to grow all those fun things. So yeah, where was I? I got distracted. Not hard. Yeah, you have to kind of, okay, back to center here. There is a lot of changes coming up to my website. My logo is going to change. If you wanted to check out my Rumble channel, that's got my new, not on the emblem yet because it's not official yet. I don't have the little thingy to do it. I mean, I probably could, but I'm not going to really do that yet. But I put a little quickie thing about how you should really be treating people. So yeah, I got that up on Rumble, and I think I put it up somewhere else. Yeah, I don't see things all the time. I'm usually pretty fried after work. So for me to see something during the week was pretty amazing. I'm going to try and do more things during the week as far as getting out rather than coming in and doing what I absolutely have to do, which is usually try and peel off all the emotional hoodoo that I've been coming across. Topic. What is abuse? Oh, that's a really good question. So I actually had a thing on here about love that I didn't read. And I talked to a friend some time ago about how you define that. And it was a colleague of mine when I said, well, you know, it's all about love. The universe is love. That's what Einstein says, blah, blah, blah. And he said, what is love? Don't hurt me, baby. And it was a lyric to a song. Sorry, I'm not into like contemporary stuff because I kind of grew up on really old. Yeah, smudge for sure. Huh. Love is kind of funny because you can, you know, people know what tough love is, right? Sometimes love is painful, and a lot of times we can have unhealthy love. So there is a difference between healthy love and unhealthy love. There's such a thing as trauma bonding. So if someone is sticking with someone, it's, you know, the devil, you know, that's kind of a weird thing, but yep. Defining love, it's a situation of how do you define love, sometimes takes a form of something that you would consider like a discipline or a correction. I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to say, but only on the receivers or part of the perspective of that individual. So when you're, you know, when you're a parent and you get upset with your child and you're standing up in their chair, and they could be considered as a correction from the child's point of view. But from the parent's point of view, it's an act of love and protection. You don't want them to fall out of the chair. That's kind of a healthy aspect. But if you have somebody that loves someone unconditionally, and that individual does not reciprocate in kind in a way that is not hurtful or damaging, that almost sounds like it's a narcissistic relationship, maybe a little bit, because we're all on, everything's a spectrum. Everybody's got a dose of it, of narcissism. Yeah, and it doesn't matter what the relationship is. It's a matter of control, and it might be fear on the child's part, and it's a learned behavior. If it's her son, more than likely she's succumbed to it, because I see that a lot with adults. I work with adults, so adults will do what that worked as a kid, and if that bad behavior or maladaptive behavior is fed, that's what they're going to do as an adult. She's at a point of doing reverse Morgan. Oh, well, you know, she's got to do whatever she's got to do, right? You know, this is her life, and it's got nothing to do with him, and he's not there to support her. Then she's got to do what she's got to do. And if you're ever in, and don't be afraid of this either, you can do anonymous calls to Adult Protective Services. And just let them know that it would be a problem if that individual found out if you made a report, to protect that person if you feel like they're in danger. There's nothing wrong with that. If you feel like someone is in a situation where they are not in the best living conditions, you can call the local police and say, hey, wherever that person's at, this is what's going on, and we have a concern. They will go over and knock on the door and do a well check. You know, unfortunately, I've had to do that a couple of times, and people have justifiably had to go into the hospital and get some help, both medically and from a mental health standpoint. It's a hard thing to do when it's somebody you know on a personal level, though. I don't know if I could do that on family member. I would be more inclined to go over and say, you know, hey, and then if they blew me off, it's like, careful, because you know what I'm going to do. I'll do it. I'm not going to hesitate. If you feel like someone's in an imminent danger, and I was told one time that they weren't going to pick this person up because they were not in imminent danger. They didn't say they were going to do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, if you look at the word imminent, that means in the short term, in the near future, could be within a day or two. That to me sounds pretty imminent. They may not be dead today or tomorrow, but that might happen in a couple of days if they do X, Y, and Z. So don't tell me it's not imminent. So, yeah, that is what it is. So I am reading my book on minerals and learning a little bit more from Dr. Ulrich. That's a pretty awesome book. I would highly recommend that people do their own research on what's going to work for them. You can, and I would not do a Google. If you're able to get into, you do a Google Scholar, and you can get a peer-reviewed research documents, and they're really not that hard to read. Get out a dictionary and look it up if you have to, some of the terminology that they use, but it's definitely worth taking a couple of minutes and looking at, you know. So neglect is still an adult protection services issue. There is abuse, and if there is neglect, financial neglect, she can't afford groceries. If you, there are a lot of resources that unless she's making money, making too much money, if somebody's retired, they can reach out to their local community, mental health. They can reach out to there are online resources, and if they don't have access to the online stuff, if they can get into the library might be able to connect them with some things if they're not part of community mental health. Yeah, even local churches, sometimes they do that. We have like this, it's an ebook that one of my colleagues put together and just in our area, and it's like voluminous. It would not be good to print this puppy out. It'd be a couple of trees. So, well, maybe not a couple of trees, maybe one tree. But it's got enough information in there, and it's constantly up. Yeah. So she's, you know, especially I like your typo. Made me laugh. Sorry. All right. So yeah, Meals on Wheels. If she's old enough, everybody's got a Meals on Wheels in the area. That's through your local community. You know, if you're old enough and you're retired, Meals on Wheels will come right to you. Sometimes they have distribution centers that you can get something that's collected there, and even Meals on Wheels might have additional ones. Some of them require referrals from like a case manager like me, where you would just let your case manager know. I had somebody move, they had nothing, not even not a bed, nothing. And it's like, what do you mean you're sleeping on the floor? Why didn't you tell me? And I did a referral. They contacted her, and they got everything. They got furnishings, they got cleaning supplies, they got, you know, everything. So it was really kind of cool. Yeah, so he's kind of a non-issue. Yeah. I like that word though. I wish it was something. Did a blood. That's good. But yeah. So if she's needing help, she has the ability to get help. There's so much stuff out there, so much free stuff. Um Hidden Harvest, I think, is probably one of the biggest ones. We have a couple of places that a couple of churches. One of them has this little building outside where you can drop off canned goods or pick, things that are not perishable. And it looks like a little house closet thing. And you open it up and you go in there, and some people drop things off and some people take them. And it's always cram a jam full of non-perishables. All kinds of freebie stuff that people can take advantage of through their community resources. Um, uh, 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 so yeah, and specifically to help people, to coach people through some of these hurdles, it would be good on a community level to reach out to whatever is available. If And this is where it's kind of the rub. You don't want people to be on psychiatric medications if you can avoid that. Uh, Go to some place where they do have free. I think the library is probably going to be the easiest place to go. Your community mental health, even if you would not be a qualify for becoming part of that system, don't if you don't have to, but they will still provide you all those resources. They're not going to tell you no. Yeah. And if again, if someone, and it could be self-neglect, it would, yeah, self-neglect. And it's okay to call adult protection services. They'll look into it, and if they can't do anything within the code, within the state codes, I think everybody's pretty much got the same health codes and mental health codes. Your Department of Health and Human Services, I know a lot of people, is it's like the beast, right? On a local level, these are very helpful institutions that you can take advantage of if someone doesn't have heat in their home, if the home is not habitable. Um, yeah, if things aren't habitable. Um, so here's the thing. So if she has a primary care physician that provides resources and that individual is choosing not to take advantage of those, that is her choice. Nobody can force her to do that. If it becomes, again, an imminent danger, that's somebody that could potentially get into the court system, and you don't want that. You don't want court mandated treatment. And again, everybody knows that mandating is not a law, but they will pick you up and pop your bones in the hospital if you're on a court order and you don't follow, you're in what's called non-compliance. The probate court will come grab you eventually. They send the police out. But I think the cat's gonna try and jump up here. I'm gonna try and make sure he can't do that because I don't have any room. But yeah, there he is. Came here anyway. Didn't you little stinker? Hmm? Um, Yeah, if she's not wanting to call, I mean, there's nothing you can do except call Adult Protection Services, and they might go ahead and I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't threaten to call. I don't threaten people. I'm gonna call. I'm gonna call. Nope. I just do it. And what the rule is, if they say because of my job that I'm a mandated reporter, so if someone mentions something that they are doing to someone else, whether it's an adult or a child, it's irrelevant to me. I don't really say anything. I get as much information as I possibly can, and then I hang up the phone and I make the call. For the average citizen, even if I didn't have this job, I would still be doing that. I'm still going to call Adult Protection Services. I'm still going to call. And by the way, on a local level, they're not all evil. Okay. I have called Child Protection Services, and things have happened that have not been bad. I'm just going to say that. Okay. So you hear a lot of the negative stuff. Can't deny that that doesn't go on too. So just kind of deal with that aspect of it. And it's a way to help people, I think, when they are refusing the help that that's going to be helpful. But yeah, don't threaten, just do it. Up to you. Again, it's all a choice. Everything's a choice. And who knows? Maybe that's her path. Yeah, as again, you kind of have to use good judgment as far as whether someone's in danger or not. So she did reach out to her primary care, and yeah, I hope she calls soon as well. Unhealthy relationships, yeah. So is the resource for financial help? Because that's through your DHS. You can apply for state emergency funds to help with your, usually it's only if you have like a shut off notice or something like that, but you should be able to get funds. But again, it has to be something that's pretty dire. So the state will, well, our state does, our state steps in. I've helped a few people with the state emergency. They fill out the forms and you just make sure they follow through with it. So that was that. Anyway, hope everybody has an awesome week. Next week is the 4th of July weekend coming up. I will be doing and going nowhere. The only thing I'm going to be doing is working on getting in a better position so I can help more people do life coaching. Maybe I'm going to try and connect with somebody that I was connected through the Beyond Quantum Healings. We might do BQH. I want to see if she'd be willing to do a session and have portions of it shared. And with that, what we would share is just kind of open people up as to what it means. Yeah, well, counseling is what it is. Again, if you're not willing to deal with whatever it is that's going on, unless it's a mandated thing through a court system, and even then they can, read between the lines, and they don't. With counseling, you have to. It's just like with substance use treatment. Even if there's court involvement with substance use and the court says you have to do this or we're popping your butt in jail, they'll probably do it. And it's like, well, you want to be here? Yeah, I want to be here. That's all you have to say. Yeah, I want to be here, and your insurance should cover it. But if they don't want to do it, it's not going to stick. And there has to be lifestyle changes, mindset changes. Very few people. I think the system is not getting at the core. And that's where I think, I'm glad you brought that up, Arizona, because the system in the counseling and the rehab for mental health conditions, even any kind of addiction, doesn't just have to be substance, people traditionally think of illicit drugs and whatnot, or opiates and yada, yada. Somebody gave me a statistic that 100,000 people, haven't looked into it yet, so take this for what it's worth. If you did a regular Google, you're going to come up with different numbers and it's not going to read the same. Because anyway, they said that 100,000 people a year die from illicit drugs. 300,000 die from accidental overdose of prescription medication. Yeah. So no reading between the lines on that. I haven't looked up the numbers yet. Again, you'd probably have to go on to like PubMed or something like that to double check that. But so helping people with that sort of thing, whether it's mental health, understanding why they have this, like a generalized anxiety, they don't really understand why they get anxious over something. It just kind of pumps up and they have like a panic attack and have any idea where it comes from. Yeah, I think we pretty much get the idea. There might be something that's deeper in the psyche that you're not going to get to unless you're going to be in a more open state of mind, like with BQH. I haven't done any kind of regressions for, people, a lot of people like the esoteric stuff. I would like to see people live a better life in this realm, because this is where we're at right now. If we were brought in here and incarnated to be here, that's great. If you were a slave driver or a slave 4,000 years ago, more power to you. Hope you learned something from it. But in the here and now, we have to be more practical, because we got some dookie coming and we need to be able to function a little better. And you're not going to be able to tap into your higher self if you got all this other hoopadoodle-doo going on, right? Put on the waders. I want to be able to, all right, I'm not going to play in the sandbox. Why should I play in the sandbox when I could have the Sahara at my feet? So jump out of the box, do something a little different, learn something new every day if you can. And life will be good. Right? It's all a matter of perspective, man. I'm telling you, I really appreciate you showing up here. But everybody be blessed. I am going to sign off. I'm going to see what else I got on my ticket. Don't know if I'm really going to have anything else. Have my trusted little 7-year-old, 6-year-old phone. I think I kind of covered everything except for some weird stuff. I got some weird stuff that comes up. Something about light language. This came last night about 10:30. So I'm going to talk about life language, but not here. We got to stay in the 3D.